Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coaches and Coffee with Sheila James, your empowerment coach. Today, we're going to be restreaming our guest, Diane Harvey, on her journey as a caregiver. Enjoy, have a magical Monday, have a great week, and I'll see you next time. All right, good Monday morning, everyone. Welcome to Coaches and Coffee with Sheila James and your empowerment coach. And really, I have something really special for you today. Those of you who listen, thank you for being here. And I have here with me author, voiceover actress, licensed clinical social worker, Diane Harvey. Now listen, Diane Harvey is very special to me. She is my childhood friend from Gary, Indiana. We did some extraordinary, funny, happy things when we were kids. And I just want to say, Diane, welcome. Thank you for agreeing to be here with us today on Coaches and Coffee.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out how to get this whole screen here, but I don't want to mess up.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
I am not going to get disconnected, so I'm just going to sit right here.
I know. Well, Diane, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be here. It's so good to see you. We reconnected a few weeks ago, and Diane recently experienced taking care of and being the sole caregiver to her father, and she wrote about it, and she published a book, Raising Daddy. Isn't that gorgeous? It's beautiful. And today we wanted to talk about being a caregiver. You know, some of us, my parents are deceased, but as my son says, Mom, I just hate the day when I'm going to have to take care. I mean, he's already planning, right? I'm not that old. But anywho, you never know what's going to happen when. And I know some of you who listen, you have parents. I know my sisters and the truth is we don't have a clue as to what's coming down the pike of our lives. We don't. The pipe, I meant. So I wanted to, I'm going to have Diane, I'm going to ask her some questions and she's going to just really give us her heart and soul about her experience. By the way, I knew her father, who was a very funny man. He and my dad, we can tell you stories about them later. But anyway, Diane, how are you today?
Sheila, I am fine. I am so excited to be on your show, and thanks for having me. I know we're friends, but thanks for having me on your show and giving me an opportunity to talk about my father and what it was like to take care of him in his senior years.
Yeah, and Diane, let's just start right there. What was it like to take care? Well, we'll do what was it like to take care of him, and then we'll go back to what happened when you realized. Well, that'll be the second question, but let's start with the first one.
Well, Sheila, you know, but the other people don't, so I'll tell them. My father was a Leo, very stubborn, very in control. He had to be in charge of everything. So when he had to come here and live with me because of health failure, that's what got him here. He still wanted to do everything, but he couldn't. And some things were just not even safe for him to do. So I said, Daddy, you can't do that. Daddy, you can't eat that. You don't tell me what to do. I'm still your father. So I would sit there and I thought, you know what? I have raised 2 children and I know what it's like to set a schedule, to tell people no, to say this is what you're going to have to do. I said, if I can raise 2 children, by golly, I can raise Daddy. And that's how the title Raising Daddy came. When I said, I'm going to raise him too. And when I thought about what it was like to be a mother, it made it easier to take care of him because I didn't know what I was doing.
I understand. Well, I know, but none of us do. It's like unexpected. My sister, God bless her, she and her husband had my mom for 14 years, but she also had us, you know, several siblings in and out, but she still was the sole caregiver for my mom the last 14 years of her life. So how did you know, Diane, that this was actually going to become your role? What happened?
He kept calling me, talking about he had headaches. He was still in Gary at this time, and I was here. And I kept saying, well, Daddy, you got to go to the doctor, get it checked out. So he'd go, they'd give him some painkillers and send him home. So during the King weekend, there was a 3-day holiday. So I'm going to go up and check on him. And I went up there and I got there about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And my father still had his pajamas on. And my father would be up and dressed at 7 o'clock most days to go nowhere, but he was up and dressed. I said, Daddy, do you want to go back with me for just a few days so we can get a doctor to look at you? He said, yeah, I'll be ready. And I thought he was going to argue, but he said, yeah, I'm going to go. And we packed him up, brought him back with me. When he got here, he had a stroke and heart attack 3 days after he was here.
Mm.
And I just knew as he recovered, I didn't think, first of all, I didn't think he was going to recover because he actually was in a coma for a brief period of time. And he was 83 then. And I said, this is not going to end well. He came here to die. I don't believe he came here to die. Well, then he started getting better. I thought, wait a minute, this can't happen. I mean, what's happening here? He's 83. And a doctor on the phone who I'd never met called me one day and he said, your father's going to get better. I said, do you know how old my father, are we talking about the right guy? Do you know how old my father is? He said, yeah, your father's 83, but he's a fighter. I said, well, what happened to him? They didn't know what it was at first. And it was a stroke. There was a brain bleed.
Wow.
And he said, he has blood in his brain. I said, well, where's it going to go? He said, the body's going to reabsorb it. I said, and then what's going to happen? He said, and then he's going to go home with you. He's going to go to rehab because he's going to have to learn how to walk and all this stuff again and talk, but he's going to go home with you. And 3 months later, that's exactly what happened. And I don't think my father was thinking about going back to Gary when he saw, but he could walk again. Once he started walking, he could do things again.
Wow.
But it still wasn't going to be that he'd drive a car again. Thank goodness. And Sheila, he drove a car one day when he was here.
Right.
I just want to drive the car. And I let him go to the cul-de-sac and come around. He almost hit the people's mailbox that lived in the cul-de-sac. And Sheila, when we got back to my house, he kept driving. I said, you don't know where I live, do you? So after that, I didn't even have to take the keys. He was through. And I think he knew then, I can't do this by myself anymore.
You know, what's amazing about Mr. Jenkins, who I happen to really know, you know, and he's like this big voice, big in stature. How tall was your dad? About
he really wasn't that tall. He was maybe 5'9".
Really?
Maybe 5'9", 5'10".
Well, it was the way he carried himself. I would have thought he was 6'3".
No, he was just a big guy, but he wasn't tall.
Okay, good. But he had a strong voice, you know, when he commanded your attention. So that's, you know, those of you listening, we have Diane Harvey, the author of Raising Daddy, which is available on Amazon. Some of you should be looking now because some of you are fortunate enough to still have your parents and you want to start doing the planning and thinking around a day that could happen, such as Diane. Okay. So Diane, once you had him here and he stayed here, share with us a few of the challenges of being his caregiver.
Some of the challenges were even just getting the house ready for someone who's recovering from a stroke. He didn't walk, he still had to walk with a cane and a walker. And eventually he always just got down to a cane. He was never able to walk without holding something. So that meant taking up rugs. Wow. And it meant redoing my shower. Thank goodness my son is a handyman. So we took the shower door off and you have to put up the rails so he could get in and get himself out. We got the seat in the shower and the rinser thing so he could get himself showered. We had to change the toilet seat because Sheila, one thing you want to do when you're taking care of an elderly person, you want them to still have as much independence as they can. Even though they're sick, they still have to have that sense of, I can still do these things. Redoing the house and making it, you know, how you make it house child-proof when you have little ones. Wow. I had to make it old man proof when Daddy came. So I had to get the rugs up. And the nurse was very particular about taking any loose rugs. She said, that's why they call them throw rugs. They throw senior citizens because they trip over them. So all my rugs had to get put up, which meant I had to arrange my furniture in a way that they didn't need the rug to keep from sliding. So all my furniture was flushed against the wall. And it was, you know, my house didn't look the way I wanted it to look, but Daddy was safe. And I think that's a decision that you make, how to take care of your parents. And my father loved to eat too. So I had to get a caregiver to come in, a part-time person to come in and sit with him when I wasn't home. But I would get things for him that he could fix his own snacks, or just the snacks were already prepackaged, like the prepackaged with applesauce. Then he could just go in there and get that himself, because I tried to get the kind in the jar, of course, which was cheaper, but you'd have to scoop that out. Well, those old little frail hands couldn't get the top of the applesauce off. I said, okay, it's going to cost more to buy these packets, but it's going to make him more independent. So I think when you're taking care of an elderly person, especially a person who raised you, it's hard for
Mhm.
them to give up that power. So what you want to do is, in a loving way, try to keep giving it to them as best you can, but keep them safe too.
Yeah, Diane, that's what really struck me in your book, how you learned or developed your, I don't know how you did it, but I saw often there that you would try to create strategies where your father would still have the experience of either being independent or things he could do for himself, and that you were, what I loved about it, you were very conscientious to that. Um, Even if you were annoyed just from reading, nobody would ever know. Nobody would ever know. And I think that's important because I know I've seen people be caregivers and get so frustrated that they're fussing and yelling and screaming
Mhm.
and that kind of thing. So, how did this impact you and your life? How you lived your life? How did it impact you?
Sheila, I don't think I had a life. My
Mm,
life was daddy. And I think I gained 30 pounds when he was here because I didn't take care of myself. I took care of him. And I was still working full time. And I thought, okay, at some point he's got to do something. He can't just sit here all day and talk to the person who's coming to take care of him, which he wanted her to drive him around everywhere. So I ended up giving her gas money on top of paying her, to take him different places. I said, Daddy, I wanted to put him in a senior citizen place to at least go have some activities. He asked me who was a senior. I said, you are a senior. No, I'm not going there with those old people. And Sheila, I would take him places
that's my mom.
and he would just sit and not. At one point, he turned his head. I mean, I'm introducing him to the person. I said, I'm bringing my dad here to see what type of services you have. And he did one of these. I was embarrassed. I mean, it was like you take a kid. I was like, wait till I get him home. I was just going to talk about him. But what we ultimately did, we found bingo. And this is how I got him to bingo. I said, Daddy, I'm going to go to the bingo hall. It was VFW, all this. I said, I'm going to go there and
Yeah.
see what it's like to play bingo. Well, I'm not going because it's a bunch of old people. I said, well, you don't have to go. I'm going to go. And I went. Wait, he said, well, who's going with you? I said, I told you, I'm going by myself. Well, then he realized, well, okay, I'll just go with you. So he was calling himself chaperoning me. We got to bingo. And when he saw, here was the catch that you could play and you can win money. You played maybe 6 games. In the first 5 games, you won $100. The last game was a jackpot for $1,000. When he
Wow.
won one game, he was hooked. So we were going on Wednesday nights. Then he found out, hey, they play Monday nights too. So we went Monday and Wednesday. They play Saturday too. We went Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Okay, okay. And I am exhausted because I'd come home from work and he'd have his jacket on ready to go. I said, Daddy, can I relax him and grab? We could eat on the way. And we'd go to Waffle House or someplace to eat. He ate much faster than I did. So he was gobbling his food down. When they brought mine, I said, oh, now I get to relax. Well, it's time to go to bingo. I said, but I just got my food. Bring it here. Bring it with you. So I didn't really have much life. Then we had a
Mm,
casino trip once a month to either Alabama or North Carolina that we took, and that was an overnight. So we began to develop things that were our things. And we listened to music. And Sheila, this was funny. My brother came down one weekend and he was going to go with us to Alabama. Well, now we had our set of music we played. We played country music going down. We played
yeah.
Sam Cooke and the Temptations coming back. So we're playing this country music, Patsy Cline on it. And Ferg said, I want to hear that. And my father looked at him like, oh, you are breaking this routine. So he didn't want to, he delayed us. We got there later. My father was not a happy camper. I had to take him back the next weekend because he said, Ferg just messed up our role. I said, he did. So eventually I just started doing things with him, or I started doing things, and then he was going along with me. But it's critical you let them do something and you try to have fun. You got to make this fun because you will go stark raving mad. I didn't think any of my friends understood what I was going through. They didn't. But I just started stumbling upon things that would work. And the little people at the bingo, all white, as he would call them, all hillbillies, loved
Oh,
him. His nickname was BJ, and that's what he called him. He would, he said what he felt
I
like.
know he did.
Girl, if somebody worked at Waffle House, she got enough money. I know she got some tips today. I said, Daddy, you don't know what she got today. And they brought him presents at Christmas time.
Oh, wow.
And I said something about, they asked his name and I told them his name. So his nickname was BJ. So they started calling him BJ. And at one point they said, well, who are you? I said, well, I'm his daughter. I said, who do you think I was? I bring him every week. Oh, we thought you were his hired help. I said, well, he may treat me that way, but no, I'm his daughter. And then they started bringing me some gifts, and he would make me get gifts for them for Christmas. And that he enjoyed being here. He was afraid of the South because the last time he was here was very, very racist. And it's made some changes. But when people know you, they like you. And when they knew
Yeah.
him, it was no racial kind of things there at all in the bingo place.
Awesome. Diane, for our listeners, and this is just such a great conversation. This is Diane Harvey's conversation on raising her father. The roles do flip at some point. The preparation, like for myself, example, I've been putting things together, working on my will for my super big estate for my son. But I just trying to, I have a app for my passwords and usernames. Every time I turn around, there's another one I forgot. And just the preparation and getting all my paperwork and things together, and some things that are very valuable. A friend of mine recently passed, and he had all this baseball paraphernalia, which I know was probably well in the over $1 million. But the person with him, I don't think knew that or got that. And it probably went trashed or whatever. But here's my point. How do you prepare yourself and get all their paperwork and medications? Like, there's some things that require systems. And those of you listening, if your parents, God bless you, if they're still alive, you better start thinking. And if they're not responding to you, listen to Diane. And so you can create conversations in ways maybe where they will respond to you and begin to partner with you, because the day is coming for someone or another. And it could happen also with a younger sibling, older sibling. It could happen at any point in time. Okay. My sister always laughs and says, Sheila, I'm not taking care of you, which she knows she will. But anyway, Diane, how do you prepare?
I didn't prepare because it was so sudden. I went there to visit him for the King weekend and he came back with me. But during that time, I knew I was going to need some medical records. It was a weekend. I had a friend who was a doctor, and I said, can you help me get these medical records from my father? He said, I will get what I can and the rest I'll email to you. I said, can you write some prescriptions for him? Because I looked at his medicine. I said, this is not going to last that long. So he wrote me prescriptions. So I just was fortunate enough at that moment to have someone. So I would tell anyone listening, if you're trying to prepare, find medical records, be able to access them. If your parent is still of sound mind, parent, spouse, whoever you would be caregiver of, maybe they would make you power of attorney, because then you could use that document to get all the information you need. Because I had to come back. Well, since I was there in Gary, this guy gave me everything. When I got to Atlanta, it was hard to get things from Gary because they didn't know who I was. I said, this is his daughter. Yeah, well, you could be anybody saying you're his daughter. So then I had to get power of attorney, and I had to show that or email that or fax that to everybody to get things that I needed. Bank accounts I had to get transferred over. So you want to get joint bank accounts. You want to get some ID of some sort. When he came here, he needed an ID. Now that's at the Department of Motor Vehicles. My father wrangled these people out of a driver's license. I said, no, all he needs is the ID. When he got through talking, he had a driver's license. I said, he will never get in the car, but the driver's license and the ID card looks the same. But things that I would tell people to do, try to find where their insurance documentation is, if they'll tell you, but if they don't, start looking. But that power of attorney is going to be critical if you're dealing with someone who can't make decisions for themselves or a little dementia. My father did not have dementia. He just was stubborn and didn't want me to know his business. I said, you're going to have to tell me where this stuff is. And then you have to write letters to Social Security, to teacher retirement, so that stuff could get changed from Gary to here. Ultimately, we sold his house. And my brother was in Chicago at the time, so we were able to go up there, and all three of us were able to do that. but it's a lot of paperwork. And I
Yeah.
put some notes in the back of the book about things that you need. There are attorneys sometimes that you may have to contact. And, you know, Sheila, I hate to say this. When you have a lot of people, I only had my brother, but when you have and I'm not saying he was a troublemaker, but I'm saying when you have lots of people in your family, when it gets to taking care of somebody, you're going to have some dissension. It's not unlikely. Well, why you got to have mama's this? Or why you get to take daddy's that? So it might help to have some legal assistance. My father didn't have a will. So I said, Daddy, let's write this will out while you're here. So we wrote his will out. I wrote my will out for my children because if I died, I needed to have caregiving in there for my father. And it's not uncommon sometimes that the caregiver will predecease the person they're taking care of. So I had to put that in there. So now what I do though for my son and my daughter, I have one little tote bag that sits in one corner of my house, and I have everything in that. I've already written my obituary. I have all my insurance papers, and every time I change one or leave a job and the insurance changes over, I put it in there. And I also send a copy to my best friend. Somebody needs to know where that stuff is. You need to let people know who your doctors are. So start asking people, who's your doctor, mom, dad? Because you have to get information from these people. And I did all this before social media and emailing and texting. I think I could email a little bit, but this was almost 16 years ago when he came. So a lot of this stuff just wasn't easy to get. So I'd have to write and wait for them to mail it to me and back and forth and back and forth. But if there's anything I would tell people to get as soon as possible, if you think you're preparing, get a power of attorney. That will allow you to go handle the business.
No, that's really great, Diane. This is some very useful information. And as we begin to wrap it up, I know I have all my stuff in a fireproof bag that I got from Amazon. And it's sitting right there kind of close by. So if something ever happens, grab that. I told you, just grab that. But that's really, really very good. You brought up another question for me, but what I'd like you to share with us, and your father was with you, 14 years?
No, he was almost 10.
Almost 10. What was it like for you when he did pass away?
Well, honestly, on one level, there was a sense of relief because I knew he wasn't going to get better this time. I was beginning to see changes in my health that I knew now I'd be able to focus on me. I thought if I could live 1 year after he died, I would survive. Because 3 friends I had, and I mentioned that in the book, died within the first year. The person they were caregiving died because of the stress. So I had a knee problem. My knee was killing me, but I thought, okay, I got to get that fixed. I said, okay, I'm not going to count that as an illness toward my death. I call that a pre-existing condition because my knee was hurting when he was here. I was just afraid to go get any help because me being out of his life frightened him. So if I got sick, I'd go to work sick because if I was home, he would think, what's wrong with you? Are you going to die? And then he panicked because it was like, well, who's going to take care of me if anything happens to you? So I would always try to portray, I'm fine, I'm strong, I'm whatever. So I got the knee fixed. And then any headache, I thought, I'm going to die. I know I'm going to die because I don't get headaches. Then anything else happened. Okay, I know I'm going to die. And I just started chanting. I'm Buddhist and I do the Tina Turner, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And I said, let me just make it 1 year and I'll be fine. And when that year came, and I had to get out of my 50s, all my friends died in their 50s. So 1 year later and a few months, I would be 60. So when that happened, I said, yes, I'm going to live. And then I thought, I miss my 50s. All my 50s are gone. And one friend said, you could be 50 again. I said, how can I be 50 again? She said, count like the children, 58, 59, 50, 10. So when I turned 60, I called myself 50-10 for the whole year.
That's funny.
And then I turned 61. But
that's awesome.
I didn't take care of myself, and I'll really try to do something. Listen to music, take a spa bath in your own. There are no more hours in a day to give. So I didn't listen to books on tape, but that's things you can do while you're driving, and you've got to find some time for yourself. And I didn't do that. And I think it put very much stress on me, which I said earlier, cost me 30 pounds. I didn't lose it. I gained 30 pounds because of taking care of him and not taking care of me. So try to take care of yourself. But Sheila, I want to say before I go, I tell the little stories in the book in a humorous way, because if you don't think about how funny this is to have to your parent, you will become so depressed. And I was determined I could not be depressed. And I tell the quick story of when I took Daddy to the VA hospital, the Veterans Administration Hospital, and this guy was trying to flirt with me. And I was thinking, oh. And the guy was, he was kind of saying, so where are you from? I'm from Gary. And Daddy was sitting there like, I don't think so. And he said, my father said, go get me some water, Di. I said, yeah, water? We just sit here waiting to get called to the doctor's office. He said, go get me some water. So I storm off and get the water. And I come back, the guy is gone. I don't know if Daddy told him to get the heck on or if he actually got called in, but Daddy was very protective of me, or he was protective of himself. So I tell these stories in humorous ways because you got to laugh about it. You have to laugh about it.
Di, your father probably threatened him with his gun that he didn't have.
He probably, because he did have his gun. I was trying to hide it from him, but he said, no. He still felt like he had to protect me, even though his little fingers probably couldn't even pull the trigger.
That's right.
He felt like he had to protect me.
That's so funny. Well, in closing, this was such a great conversation. Again, her book, Raising Daddy, is on Amazon. I love the cover. It's so gorgeous. It's an easy read. You have reflections in each chapter. Is there any reflection you want to leave us with today, Diane?
Yes, I have a letter in the back to caregivers, and it's about promises. When you make promises to people, your grandparents always said, don't make a promise you can't keep. So it's like you actually enter into this agreement with God when you make a promise. But when you promise people you're going to do something, and then when the time actually comes to call in that promise, the situation may have changed. It's okay to renegotiate the promise. But people won't do that. Well, I got to do this because I promised my father, I promised my mother that they never, and I promised. But now you're sick too. You can't do what you used to do. So I would like to say, if you promised your parents at 40 years old, they would live with you, things would be great, you would quit your job, and here you are now at 55, you can't retire yet, and you can't take care of them, you've got a leg issue or whatever, you have to renegotiate. It's okay to say, when I made that promise, I was in this kind of health, and you were not in sick. You make the promise, you don't know how sick they're really going to get. So it's okay to not renege, but let's say renegotiate on a promise so you don't carry around guilt.
Wow, beautiful. Well, Diane Harvey, thank you so much. I could talk to you, of course, all day, which I'm sure we probably will. But listen, the link to Raising Daddy is in the chat. So please, buy this book and buy it for other people in your life. People like, I know my niece is listening. My oldest sister, who won't tell anybody anything. Hello. Not calling anybody out, but like, we have parents, we have sisters, we have siblings. It's a lot. It's more than you can kind of wrap your arms around right now. But this was very helpful. Diane includes resources and reflections. This was such a rich conversation because this could happen to anyone at any time.
Sheila, I forgot the price. The price of the book is $15.99, but it's also on an ebook for $7.99 for those who just want to look at it online and not actually have a hard copy.
All right. And yes, and everybody from Gary, Indiana. Now I'm expecting you to buy the book, period. Okay. This is our home girl. We love her so much. We love her brother, Ferg, Johnny. She's waving to you, Johnny, Fergie. And he calls her Tricks, but we'll do that for another day. All right.
All right.
Okay. So that brings us to, sorry, Christine was trying to tell me something, but anywho, that brings us to our word for the week. And I really picked this word because one of the things I thought throughout the book where Diane was a genius about was keeping her father's chest up. He lived it was 10 years and he passed at about 93.
94. He died the day after his 94th birthday.
The day after his 94th birthday. And what I loved was she had a way of having him, lack of a better way to say it, have a positive mental attitude while he was dealing with his health and or the former part of his life. So that brought us to our word for the week, which is today, empathy. The ability to understand another person's thoughts and feelings in a situation from their point of view rather than your own. Our word for the week is empathy. The ability to understand another person's thoughts and feelings in a situation from their point of view rather than your own. All right, Diane, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila. Keep doing great work. You give positive messages and great information to people. Keep uplifting people. That's a great job, Sheila.
Thank you. And I love it. I'm blessed. And I'm blessed to have you in my life. And all of you listening, thank you so much. Have a magical Monday. Have a fantastic week. And God willing, we'll see you next Monday. Bye.